$10 or $5, or Dr. Mungekar said facetiously even $500. The point is, what have we done in the last 15 years or 16 years, or rather 20 years after liberalization? Can anyone deny the fact, wherever you draw the poverty line, over the years, that poverty line and the new population below the poverty line, that delta is what we have accomplished as a functioning democracy that is committed to progress. And our claim is, in the years we were in office, about 140 million people have been lifted above the poverty line. Our claim is we have lifted about 140 million people. Wherever you draw the line, the number may be more by a couple of million or less by a couple of million. But nobody can deny that X number of people, X million people have been lifted above the poverty line. You take the poverty population, you take the population, income-wise population, stratify it, draw the line you like. I request the deputy leader to this evening. Draw the line at $2, at $3. Ask, what was the population below that line 10 years ago? What is the population below that line today? And the delta, the difference is about 140 million people, and my government is proud that 140 million people have been lifted out of poverty. And I'm sure the work will continue. The work will continue after me. The work will be continued by my successor. The work will be continued by the successor government, whoever the successor is. But the work will continue. Our work will not end until everyone is lifted above the poverty line. The last points I want to make about the rupee. I mean, I've seen much writing about the rupee in the last several days that I think we have to go back to the drawing board to understand what the rupee is and how the rupee behaves. People have said 1 rupee is equal to $1. Of course it was in 1947. 1 rupee was indeed equal to $1. 10 grams of gold cost 88 rupees 62 paise in 1947. 10 grams of gold cost 88 rupees 62 paise in 1947. Today 10 grams of gold is about 10,000 rupees. Rupee is depreciated. You don't like the rupee? Don't take the rupee. I'll give you $88. Please go and buy 10 grams of gold today. We'll give you 88 rupees 62 paise you don't like. We will give you $88. Please go and buy 10 grams of gold today. If the rupee is depreciated against the dollar is depreciated against gold. Why? It is because in 1947 and earlier, nobody bought gold. There was no demand for gold. Per capita income was low. Wealth was concentrated in a few hands. There was nobody buying gold. The supply of gold is a certain amount of supply, the demand is a certain demand, and gold was available at that price. But today, the supply of gold may have increased a little more or may have decreased, I don't know, but the demand has increased. More and more people worldwide, not only in India, all over the world are buying gold. In China too, they're buying as much gold. Despite 50 years of communism, they have not able to wean their people away from their attachment to gold. So China is buying gold, India is buying gold, and gold is today 30,000 rupees for 10 grams. But I don't think we should look at what was the dollar, what was the rupee. I've got the numbers on how the rupee behaved. I've got the figures on how the rupee behaved over the last 10 years. Gold standard was removed before 1947. So we are talking about 1947 and thereafter. The analogy doesn't help because you say rupee was $1 in 1947. I'm trying to answer that argument. If 1 rupee was $1 and the dollar was such a strong currency, do your arithmetic. For $88 you should be able to buy 10 grams of gold today. The point is, how was the rupee behaved in the last few years? I think we need to look at that, and I'll tell you.
papers.
Sir, no, doesn't matter. The rupee was, in April 2004, 43 rupees 77 paisa to the dollar. In April 2010, it was 44 rupees 77 paisa to the dollar. The rupee was remarkably stable from 2004 to 2010. Between 2011 August and 2012 August, the rupee depreciated from 44 to about 55. That was when the Eurozone crisis hit the world. From 1st August 2012 to about May 22, 2013, the rupee was remarkably stable. It was about 54, 55 to the dollar. For full 10 and a half months, the rupee was remarkably stable. Then came the Fed chairman's famous statement, all currencies in the world depreciated because of his hint that quantitative easing will be withdrawn. So it is not as though the Indian rupee alone is affected. I was patting myself on the back that in another 6 weeks, I can claim that the rupee has been remarkably stable for 1 year. But then came the statement, every currency is depreciated. In fact, the rupee's depreciation is smaller than the depreciation of some other currencies, worse than the depreciation of some currencies. Point is, given our inflation, given our fiscal deficit, given our current account deficit, there will be some pressure on the rupee, and the rupee will indeed depreciate a little. All that we are saying is, we cannot allow the rupee to go into a free fall. We are not arguing for or against a strong rupee. We are arguing for a stable rupee. We cannot allow the currency market to be destabilized or the currency market to be volatile. So the measures that we are taking are to reduce the volatility in the currency market, to quell speculation in the currency market so that the rupee is stable. But the rupee must indeed find a level given the demand and supply and given the objective financial conditions. But if our fiscal consolidation takes place at a rapid pace, if we are able to contain the fiscal deficit, and if we are able to carry conviction to the world that we will contain the current account deficit and finance it safely, and if the flows return to India, you will find the rupee strengthen. It is not as though the rupee has not strengthened in the past. For example, in April 2009, the rupee had hit 50. But by April 2010, it has strengthened to 44. Therefore, my respectful request is, please don't get carried away by what you read and what you hear about the rupee. The rupee will find its level. But if we try to do what has to be done to keep the economy stable and growing, the rupee will find its correct level. Nobody can predict what the correct level is. It depends upon the objective economic conditions and the demand and supply for foreign currency. Suppose our exports improve dramatically. Suppose we're able to reduce our dependence on oil, which is imported, or coal, which is imported. It will change. Sentiment will change overnight. Therefore, my respectful submission is, while the debate on the rupee is a welcome debate, it should not become a debate about the pride or prestige of a country. Yes, we all want a stable currency. We also want a currency that has a high purchasing power, but we have to address the fundamental issues. The fundamental issues are fiscal deficit and the current account deficit. These are being addressed, and as we address these issues, I assure this House, you will find that the country's economy becomes stable, more strong, and we become more prosperous. Finally, sir, let me conclude by saying, there is this raging debate between Professor Jagdish Bhagwati and Dr. Amartya Sen. I think this debate makes for good theatre, but I think this debate must be seen in the context. I hold both of them in high regard. I know one of them rather closely, the other I'm acquainted with other distinguished gentlemen. But I think we must understand what they're talking about. I think Dr. Bhagwati and Dr. Panagaria are emphasizing how growth is absolutely necessary for a developing country. Let's not underestimate their argument. Growth is absolutely necessary. It's a necessary condition. What Dr. Sen and Dr. Drees are saying is, while growth is necessary, growth must be inclusive. Growth must be sustainable. Growth must embrace larger and larger sections of the people. Nobody can be left behind. The poor cannot be left behind. The scheduled castes cannot be left behind. The scheduled tribes cannot be left behind. The minorities cannot be left behind. Women cannot be left behind. The disabled cannot be left behind. The marginalized people living in the remote parts of India cannot be left behind. Try to embrace as many people as possible in your growth process. I think both of them are concerned about both prosperity and the abolition of poverty. I don't think their goals are different. They just lay emphasis on one aspect a little more than emphasis on the other aspect. I was tempted to describe one as having a passion for growth and describe the other as having a compassion for the poor. That doesn't mean those who are passionate about growth have no compassion for the poor. At the same time, it does not mean that those who have compassion for the poor are not passionate about growth. I believe that this country will be served well if all of us agree that we must combine a passion for growth with compassion for the poor. That is the policy of our government, and I ask your support for that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chidambaram. Now, thank you. Now I am taking a special mentions. Mr. Kiko Simon. You can read.
Let me go.
Deputy Chairman, sir, through you, I would like to draw the attention of Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas about his letter dated 13th June 2013, addressed to the Chief Minister of Nagaland, requesting to withdraw the notification issued by Government of Nagaland in December 2012, inviting expression of interest for the oil and natural gas exploration, production, etc. in the state of Nagaland, and also to receive the Nagaland Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulations 2012 as well as related resolutions which have created the panic in the mind of the Nagas. The constitutional provision of the Article 371A, which protects, safeguards the right of ownership of land and its resources, have unceremoniously infringed and thereby undermined the supremacy of the Parliament, as only Parliament alone can take away the Article 371A if so decides. Sir, the then Honorable Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas, in reply to unstated question number 2423 dated 10 March 2011, put by Dr. Mahesh Joshi, I quote, however, in accordance with Article 371A of the Constitution of India, the Nagaland State Assembly on 26 July 2010 had passed a resolution that in respect of ownership and transfer of land and its resources, including mineral oil, no act of Parliament shall apply to the state of Nagaland. In this regard, Minister of Law and Justice, Government of India is of the opinion that the term land and its resources in Article 371A would include mineral oil and their resources, and ownership and transfer of such land and resources under Article 371A. Therefore, resolution passed by Nagaland Assembly is constitutionally correct and its validity is unquestionable. Hence, Government of India is urged to respect and honor the constitutional provisions of Article 371A in our relation in future, both by letter and by spirit. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sri Narendra Kumar Kashyap.
महोदय, हाल ही में देश की सरकार ने तेलंगाना को अलग राज्य बनाने पर सकारात्मक रुख अपनाया है, जो देश के विकास के लिए एक मजबूत कड़ी साबित होगा। और इससे पूर्व उत्तर प्रदेश की तत्कालीन मुख्यमंत्री सुश्री मायावती जी ने उत्तराखंड को अलग प्रदेश बनवाकर देश के विकास में एक नया अध्याय जोड़ा। इसके अलावा भी अनेकों राज्यों पंजाब, हरियाणा, झारखंड, छत्तीसगढ़, महाराष्ट्र, गुजरात आदि के निर्माण से इन प्रदेशों के करोड़ों लोग लाभान्वित हुए हैं। लेकिन अभी भी कई प्रदेश ऐसे हैं जो घनी आबादी व विषम परिस्थितियों की वजह से अपेक्षित विकास नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, जिनमें जम्मू कश्मीर सबसे ज्वलंत उदाहरण है, जो भौगोलिक, भाषाई, सांस्कृतिक व संवैधानिक विषमताओं के कारण असुरक्षा, अराजकता व विकास विहीन वातावरण में बना रहता है। अनेकों बार बाह्य व आंतरिक अशांति का शिकार होता रहता है। आज भी वहां लोग आंदोलित हैं, विस्फोटक घटनाएं हो रही हैं, हालात बेकाबू हैं। उपरोक्त परिस्थितियों में कश्मीर व जम्मू को अलग राज्य बनाना तथा लेह लद्दाख को यूटी घोषित किया जाना बहुत ही न्याय संगत है। वैसे भी इस प्रदेश में कश्मीर व जम्मू में पहले से ही विधानमंडल भवन, सचिवालय, प्रशासनिक कार्यालय आदि जो भी नए राज्य के लिए जरूरी व्यवस्थाएं होती है विद्यमान है। और पूरे जम्मू कश्मीर व लेह लद्दाख में बसने वाले लोग इस तर्कसंगत विचार से पूर्णतया सहमत हैं। अतः मैं आपके माध्यम से केंद्र व जम्मू कश्मीर सरकार से यह अनुरोध करता हूं कि अविलंब जम्मू व कश्मीर को अलग राज्य बनाने तथा लेह लद्दाख को यूटी बनाने की घोषणा करें। धन्यवाद।
Thank you. Now, thank you, Sri Ambat Rajan. No. Sri Y.S. Chaudhary. No. Now, Sri Ramvilas Paswan already कर दिया। Sri Ramtripal Yadav. No. Srimati Gundu Sudharani. Sri Purushottam Khudabai Rupala.
Thank you, sir. I request the government by you, sir, to curb selling of duplicate medicines for protection of precious human life. Sir, due to increase of various disease in mass, rising population, there is an increasing demand of various medicines which results unavailability of medicines, which results of duplicate medicines in the market, which severely impact human health. Due to lack of awareness about duplicate medicines and drugs, people are buying the medicines from the market. Further, pharmaceutical companies are also increasing their production capacities without any control or clearance from any government agencies. Due to demand of generic drugs, the gap between demand and supply has also increased. As per World Bank reports, 35% of medicines are produced in our nation and thousands of crores of duplicate medicines are manufactured in our nation. Due to lack of proper mechanism to trace out duplicate medicines, precious human life is in danger. I request central government to take urgent fruitful action at the earliest to curb these activities in consultation with the state government. Thank you.
you very much. Sri C.M. Ramesh. No. Sri Chaudhary Munveer Salim.
माननीय उपसभापति महोदय,
भारतवर्ष दुनिया में मानवीय संवेदनाओं और मानव अधिकारों के रक्षक के रूप में पहचाना जाता है। इसी के साथ मेरे देश को ये गौरव प्राप्त है कि इसमें अक़लियतों की तादाद किसी मुस्लिम मुल्क से ज्यादा है और हमारा संविधान अल्पसंख्यक समुदाय के संरक्षण और हिफाजत के लिए प्रतिबद्धता का इजहार करता है। किंतु पिछले दिनों जावेद नामक युवक की तिहाड़ जेल में मौत ने एक सवाल खड़ा कर दिया है, जिसके संबंध में मैंने गृह मंत्री भारत सरकार से दिनांक 7/5/2013 को शिकायत कर हस्तक्षेप का अनुरोध किया था। अफसोस की बात यह है कि उसी तिहाड़ जेल में चंद माह पश्चात दिनांक 10/8/2013 को एक और मौत नदीम नामक नौजवान की हुई है। मैं इस निर्मम हादसे के कारण बहुत दुखी हूं और इंसाफ चाहता हूं और भारत सरकार से इस संदर्भ में संज्ञान लेने की मांग करते हुए कार्रवाई कर दोषी अधिकारियों और अपराधियों के विरुद्ध आपराधिक मुकदमे बनाए जाने की मांग करता हूं। मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि मानवीय मूल्यों और अल्पसंख्यकों के संरक्षण के प्रति बार बार प्रतिबद्धता प्रकट करने वाली केंद्र सरकार इस संबंध में हस्तक्षेप कर न्याय दिलाने की दिशा में कदम उठाएगी, ताकि पूरी दुनिया में भारत की निष्पक्ष छवि कायम हो। इस शेर के साथ मैं अपनी बात को अंत करता हूं कि वो कत्ल भी कर दे तो चर्चा नहीं होता, हम आ भी करते हैं तो हो जाते हैं बदनाम। बहुत शुक्रिया, थैंक यू।
धन्यवाद। हाउस स्टैंड्स adjourned till 11 AM on Monday, 19th August 2013.